I just got the last presentation. It was great. My name is Clara. I'm a managing partner with the Urban Innovation Fund. So we invest in startups that solve city problems. So we're looking for startups that are building products or services that have the potential to positively impact the lives of millions of city dwellers. So we'll invest in ed tech, transportation, the future of work. It kind of runs the gamut, but we're a pre-seed and seed stage investor, and we offer capital, but also regulatory support and political guidance to help our companies navigate that space. It's obviously really complicated. Now, miscellaneous correspondence, which is also important and usually just takes the form of random emails. And your target audience here is just your existing investors as well as those investors who passed. And really the thing to remember here is just keep it short. We have a rule in our office that we are not allowed, none of us, to send emails that are longer than 6 sentences-ish unless we've been specifically asked to provide some kind of long-form answer to a particular question. Seriously, nobody likes to read long emails. So if you have more that you need to share, have that conversation in person, put it in an attachment, but keep the email short. And I would also say respond within 24 hours. I know you're really busy. I'm really busy too. But if you want people to give you money and trust you over time, respond to them in 24 hours. I just got the last presentation. It was great. My name is Clara. I'm a managing partner with the Urban Innovation Fund. So we invest in startups that solve city problems. So we're looking for startups that are building products or services that have the potential to positively impact the lives of millions of city dwellers. So we'll invest in ed tech, transportation, the future of work. It kind of runs the gamut, but we're a pre-seed and seed stage investor, and we offer capital, but also regulatory support and political guidance to help our companies navigate that space. It's obviously really complicated. If you're a bike share, you need public space permits. If you're selling into a highly regulated school district, that can be complicated. If you're a Lyft, you're like breaking every law known to man. There's a certain level to which you have to engage, and that's really what we're interested in. It looks like my slides are ready.
Yes, would you like a clicker?
Oh, thank you. I was told this is the optimal place to stand. I'll try and stick here. So it sounds like the conversations so far have really been about how do you get your investors on board, and that's awesome. And I'm here to talk about the next step, which is, okay, you have those investors on board. Now what? How do you move beyond fundraising and really build trust with your investors and a long-term relationship with the investors so that you don't get fired, for example, as was mentioned earlier. So again, just a little background, the Urban Innovation Fund. I'm a co-founder and managing partner. We launched the fund this past summer. Previously, I was the co-founder of an accelerator called Tummel, which also invested in the same types of companies. Companies like Chariot, which you might see all around the city, Neighborly, which is a crowd investing platform for muni bonds, all focused on city problems. I think we incubated 38 companies, and we're investing in 25 companies out of the new fund. So it's safe to say we've seen the good and the bad and the ugly in terms of startup investor relationships. And so I thought it would be helpful to kind of walk through some of the best practices that I've observed over the years so you guys can think really thoughtfully about the best ways to engage with your investors. So let's just start from the beginning. Say you raised a seed round. First of all, congratulations. Seriously, raising a pre-seed or a seed stage round or any round really, is a huge lift. So seriously, congratulations to you. That's fantastic. I would say that a few things do remain true regardless of how much you raised or what kind of investors you raised from or even what stage you're at. And the things that are true are, one, you still have a business to build, and two, you're probably going to have to raise again. So it's really important to figure out how to transition your relationship from the negotiation stage to a really productive business relationship. And to do that, I think it's really helpful to kind of bucket the folks that you're engaging with into a few categories. The first are your lead investors, or if you don't have a lead investor, then your larger investors, all of your other investors, and then those investors who passed but who might be a good fit for your future rounds. And the thing to remember here is that you're definitely going to need all of them. Again, they can help you with so many things. They can help you with business development, whether it's customer interviews, maybe they can help you with a strategic hiring decision, maybe they have some random issue area expertise that can be really useful to you. They can help you with other investors, either serving as a reference or perhaps introducing you to some folks that you don't already know. They can participate in future rounds, either as a direct investment or perhaps helping you with a bridge round when things aren't going so well. And And of course, not all investors can help you with all of these things. Many of them can't help you with anything. But this is one of those situations where you really want to leave no stone unturned. Now is the time to be proactive and keep those investors engaged in you and your company. And the best way to do that, in my opinion at least, is to put one person in charge. And ideally that person should be a founder. And the reason for that is that a founder is most likely to have the kind of information that your investors want access to. And also, this is really an ongoing relationship. You could have a relationship with an investor for 6 years, 8 years, 10 years. And so it would be great if the person who really warmed up that relationship was there in the long term to see it through to the end. And usually that sort of ongoing relationship takes a few formats, regular emails and regular update emails, I should say, in a standard format, miscellaneous correspondence, and then in-person engagement. So I'm going to spend the rest of the presentation kind of walking you through those 3 buckets. And if you have any questions, please feel free to save them for the end. I'm happy to answer any and all of them. So the first section, regular email in a standard format. I talk to entrepreneurs all the time, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to write the best update email you've ever seen in your life. Don't you worry about a thing. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. And then they don't do it. Or they write a terrible one. And I honestly, it's not that challenging, but it does involve a little bit of structure. So let me kind of walk you through it. So in my opinion, the sort of monthly, or I should say the update email should occur on a monthly basis. You'll hear some entrepreneurs say they want to do it on a quarterly basis. That's cool. That's fine. I would say that especially if you're an early stage company, there is some advantage to doing this on a monthly basis. There's a lot that is changing with your business. And if you can find ways to keep your investors up to date and also activate them when you need help on a monthly basis, it's probably better. The thing to remember here is that if you wait to talk to your investors when you need something, they're not going to be very happy with you. They're really busy. They may not even respond to the update emails that you're sending, but I promise you they are reading them. Or if they are not, it's one of those situations where they might wake up in the middle of the night and say, I wonder what happened to that company, that crazy company that I invested in last November. I haven't thought about them in a while, and I can quickly type in the name of the company into my email inbox, and up pop all of these monthly update emails, and that investor can quickly get up to speed with what's going on with your business. The thing to remember here is this is really about you, even more than it is about your investors. I hear from entrepreneurs sometimes, and they say things like, I really don't want to have to take time away from my critical business to write these stupid update emails and deal with my investors. I really should be focused on the things that matter with my actual business. And to that, I would say, if you don't already have this information at your fingertips as a founder and can quickly put that in an email, you're not doing your job. The idea of having consistent metrics that you can track for your business can be so helpful to you in everything that you do. It can help you identify weaknesses. It can help you communicate important milestones to your team. And probably, even more importantly, it can help you celebrate with your team when you hit those milestones. And frankly, I think a lot of early stage companies don't spend enough time doing that. And also, during your next fundraise, if you have this information at your fingertips and you've been talking about it and communicating with folks about this information all along, it won't be so hard to gear up and get ready for that next fundraise. You'll be prepared with those for those gotcha questions that you get from investors because you've been tracking all of those KPIs for your business for 12 plus months. So let's talk about the format of a monthly email. The first is a consistent email title to make it easily searchable so that investor who wakes up in the middle of the night can quickly search your name and find all of your very helpful monthly update emails. I would say longer is not better in this case. This is the kind of email that you want an investor to be able to quickly breeze through in a Lyft or an Uber ride between meetings. Definitely keep consistent categories and metrics as much for them to be able to track what's happening month over month as well as for you to be able to track what's happening month over month. Have a few asks at the bottom for investors. You always hear investors say, I just want to be helpful, let me be helpful. Well, now is your time to really activate your investors and really see if they're willing to actually step up for you. And then there's the question of the group email. I get asked this sometimes, this is a group email. Should you CC? Should you BCC? Should you send this to just everybody? To that, I would say you should talk to your investors. There are a lot of investors, I would suspect, who are investing in your deal as much to get to know you as it is to get to know the other investors who are in the deal. And so a lot of times they're going to want to be just regular included in a group email. And the idea here is that they want to see all the other email addresses so they can follow up with those folks. But you may have some very private investors, maybe a celebrity investor, in which case they're probably going to ask to be BCC'd. So just as a courtesy, you may want to talk to your investors ahead of time to figure out what their expectations are. Let's walk through some real update emails that I've received in my life. This has obviously been stripped of all of its actual words, but this is an actual email that I received. It went on for another 6 paragraphs. And I hate this email. I hate it so much. And the reason is because it doesn't tell me anything. I opened it and I got to hello, friends of X, and then I just archived it because it basically is telling me that they're hiding something. It's incredibly dense. There are just a ton of links. There's no metrics. There's no sort of sign language that helps me tell what's happened between this month and last month. And my immediate reaction is like they're trying to talk around a problem, and I just delete it and I call them and I say what's wrong. And that's really not a situation you ever want to be in, having investors calling you and saying what's wrong. On the other hand, this is a sample of an email that I love. I know the text is really small. I'm going to try and put this slide up online. I've tweeted it out before, but I'll tweet it out again tonight so you can take a look, but I'll read it through in case you can't see. So it says, hello all, and then there's an introduction and a high-level focus from the past month. I think it was like 1, maybe 2 sentences. And then it has one ask for investors in bold, so I know immediately what they want me to do. And then they have below a set of key metrics, which they have the same every single month. So the first section, top priorities. So they listed 2 priorities that they've had for the last month that are really the core focus of their business and their team right now. Then they have a section on product. It says we've made TBD product updates. See them at this link. And it has a hyperlink. So I can immediately tell what they've been doing. It gets me excited because I can see their product changing over time. And it's a great way to kind of get people a little bit more familiar with your product. And then my favorite section, money in the bank. This is the most important section for me as an investor. It lets me know that you will have enough money to be around next month to write me another monthly update email. It says we have X dollars in the bank. This gives us a runway of Y months at our current burn rate. And I think they include some other updates, if it's relevant, if they're fundraising, for example, or maybe they're taking out a line of credit. They can make a little note about that. In this particular email, next came the KPIs. So one KPI that I would strongly suggest you include no matter what is your revenue. Ultimately, you are a for-profit business. You should be driving real revenue. And so here they have revenue last month versus revenue this month. And their other metric that they chose that was sort of a key to their business was, it looks like, monthly active users. So they said, last month's monthly active users versus this month's monthly active users. And then they had a catch-all section at the bottom. In this case, I think they included a big win, so something that had happened with their business, a press article that had recently come out that they were excited to share. And then they had some random other update. I think in this case, it was a strategic firing, which was really interesting, as an investor, to hear that you're sort of thinking very carefully about the composition of your pretty small team. So that was pretty interesting to me. But the question is, what if things are bad? What if you don't have a great article to share with investors, or maybe the strategic firing was really terrible and you don't want to talk about it? I would say to that, you have a few options. You can send out that long, rambly email and kind of talk through and why and around all the reasons why it's not really a problem. And to that, I would say, I'm going to read it and I'm going to know that something is wrong and I'm really not going to be happy. So I would suggest you stay away from emails like that. You could just not email, in which case your investors are going to either be unhappy with you because they're going to say, why aren't you sending this regular email? Or they're just going to forget about you. So I would just say, bite the bullet. If things are going poorly, now is the time to fix it. And if you can, very succinctly share with your investors what's going on and activate them in some kind of meaningful way, that's probably your best shot to resolving that particular challenge. Now, what about investors who passed? Well, if you have investors who passed but who you really think might be a good fit for future rounds, I think you should keep talking with them, and a standard update email for them as well could be very useful. In this case, quarterly is probably sufficient, and this is not one of those things where you want to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of your business. It's really just an opportunity for you to get these folks excited, share some high-level sort of vision around your business and your progress, so that when it comes time to pitching them again, they remember who you are, and perhaps they have a little bit more insight into the sort of ins and out of your actual business.
Seafood is a $2 trillion industry every single year, but it has massive problems. 52% of fisheries are overexploited, means we can't up production from them, and then 25% above that are fully exploited to the point of collapse. So we only have 23% left of the ocean that we can fish. We're like a heroin addict searching for a vein. It's really bad. And so it has problems on top of that, actually. Fish that you get from the sea have very high levels of mercury and microplastics, which are like not really great for eating, obviously. And then when you get fish from on land in aquaculture, it has its own problems. Although you're not dealing with environmental destruction in the same way, it still has a lot of land, water usage, electricity usage. You're then also upping the amounts of hormones and antibiotics that you're using in your fish. It's kind of a bad scene. And all of this creates a very unstable supply chain. Because of that, we have massive amounts of restaurants passing off some types of fish as other types of fish. A recent study in DC showed that 36% of high-end restaurants were selling the wrong types of fish when a DNA test was done. It's really bad. So, what if there's like a way around all that? What if we could grow fish and just the parts that we need? So what we're doing is Finless Foods. What we're doing at Finless Foods is we're taking a small sample, a biopsy from a fish, and then we're taking just the satellite cells. These are the cells that help you fix a cut if you ever get one. And we're growing them out into massive quantities, turning it into muscle for people to eat. Our fish food, our fish meat is cleaner. It has less levels of antibiotics, hormones, doesn't destroy the environment, doesn't have mercury or microplastics, and it's completely cruelty-free. Cruelty-free, which I said that right. Anyway, I'm Mike Selden, and we're Finless Foods. Thank you.
Where are you on that actual wonderful promise? Like, have you grown it? How much are you growing? How much does it cost?
You want to see our lab? It's 4 blocks away.
how much should you, like, are you growing it? Like, how much does it cost? Like, how much have you grown?
Yeah. So right now, we've just started in the lab 2 months ago. So what we have is 6 cell lines going. We're optimizing our media, which is what needs to be really, really cheap for this to be cost effective. We have grown a good amount. We're going to have a prototype in September. And then we'll be on the market in 3 years. I know it's a lot for like a tech company, but for biotech, I promise it's a little more normal.
Did you guys sense the difference in that energy than the earlier pitches? So that's how you pitch. That was an incredible pitch. He had 1 or 2 minutes. Doesn't even matter what he said. You could tell he cared about the problem. He quickly presented the problem. He quickly presented his solution. So that was a really great pitch. The other ones were great too, but this one was incredible.
So maybe you'll show us what the numbers are, just so you understand the ranking score.
This is horribly brutal. Number 1 would be keep your day job, is what it says. I'm not comfortable holding up any ones. Number 2 is meh, somehow even more offensive. And then it goes to 4 and 5, I like that. 4 is let's set a meeting. And 5 is here's my check. So I imagine we're going to be hanging out a lot in the sort of 2 and 4 categories.
G'day everybody, I'm Alfred from Foresight. I've flown all the way here from Australia to tell you something really cool. We build a new type of wearable technology that's a computing platform that can power everything from augmented reality, live stream video and data aggregation. And we've already raised $1.6 million and commercialized the technology. As a world first, I do have a prototype of what that is inside this bag. Anyone gets to see. We are also negotiating right now, and the reason we're in the States is we're negotiating with the NRL for live stream broadcast onto ESPN and Fox Sports for our technology. And we've also signed up the largest sports manufacturer in Asia as a financial partner in this round. So I'm hoping to engage with some cool American people to help me launch this product out into the United States in about 18 months' time.
Hi, my name is Lydia Sugarman. I'm the CEO and founder of Personal Health Cloud. I'm a marketing and sales professional. My technical partner is a senior platform architect out of Yahoo and Ariba. Personal Health Cloud is your living health history. It puts you in. It gives you ownership of all of your health data. It eliminates redundant form filling. It guarantees that you're sharing data consistently across different healthcare providers. This is a great benefit for both you and for healthcare providers where data is still entered manually. So we think everybody should have Personal Health Cloud, including newborns coming out of the hospital. We had to choose a market, and that's youth sports programs. Every season, every year, parents have to fill out the same form and submit it for eligibility requirement. That's 30 million kids every season, every sport. We consider this an entry point market. So we'll be releasing our subscription service in a beta form next month. And a little nervous. We're self-funded. So we do anticipate our funding round initially will help us build out technical, security, sales, marketing, and support.
Who here eats seafood? Who likes seafood? Raise your hand. Good, cool, my market's here. This is awesome. Seafood is a $2 trillion industry every single year, but it has massive problems. 52% of fisheries are overexploited, means we can't up production from them, and then 25% above that are fully exploited to the point of collapse. So we only have 23% left of the ocean that we can fish. We're like a heroin addict searching for a vein. It's really bad. And so it has problems on top of that, actually. Fish that you get from the sea have very high levels of mercury and microplastics, which are like not really great for eating, obviously. And then when you get fish from on land in aquaculture, it has its own problems. Although you're not dealing with environmental destruction in the same way, it still has a lot of land, water usage, electricity usage. You're then also upping the amounts of hormones and antibiotics that you're using in your fish. It's kind of a bad scene. And all of this creates a very unstable supply chain. Because of that, we have massive amounts of restaurants passing off some types of fish as other types of fish. A recent study in DC showed that 36% of high-end restaurants were selling the wrong types of fish when a DNA test was done. It's really bad. So, what if there's like a way around all that? What if we could grow fish and just the parts that we need? So what we're doing is Finless Foods. What we're doing at Finless Foods is we're taking a small sample, a biopsy from a fish, and then we're taking just the satellite cells. These are the cells that help you fix a cut if you ever get one, and we're growing them out into massive quantities, turning it into muscle for people to eat. Our fish food, our fish meat is cleaner. It has less levels of antibiotics, hormones, doesn't destroy the environment, doesn't have mercury or microplastics, and it's completely cruelty-free. Cruelty-free. Wish I said that right. Anyway, I'm Mike Selden, and we're Finless Foods. Thank you.
Where are you on that actual wonderful promise? Like, have you grown it? How much are you growing? How much does it cost?
You want to see our lab? It's 4 blocks away.
how much should you are you growing it? Like, how much does it cost? Like, how much have you grown?
Yeah. So right now, we've just started in the lab 2 months ago. So what we have is 6 cell lines going. We're optimizing our media, which is what needs to be really, really cheap for this to be cost effective. We have grown a good amount. We're going to have a prototype in September. And then we'll be on the market in 3 years. I know it's a lot for like a tech company, but for biotech, I promise like a little more normal.
Did you guys sense the difference in that energy than the earlier pitches? So that's how you pitch. That was an incredible pitch. He had 1 or 2 minutes. Doesn't even matter what he said. You could tell he cared about the problem. He quickly presented the problem. He quickly presented his solution. So that was a really great pitch. The other ones were great too, but this one was incredible.
How many people like wine? There we go. Raise your hand if you actually like wine. How many people like, keep your hands up, how many people like spending $20 more for a bottle and then being told by the winemaker you should age it for a couple of years before you drink it? 90% of all, 70 to 90% of all wine is purchased is consumed in less than 24 hours. Only 1% of wines are typically aged traditionally. 99% of the wines are created by a winemaker to be consumed right away. But that is 0 to 5 years. About $20, they add enough real wood to the wine that actually adds enough structure to it that it tastes like wood and smells like wood, and people start purchasing aeration products to change that. My name is Peter Chenard. I'm the CEO of Valve Products. Our vision is to create products that are handheld in a platform. Right now it's a regulator, to actually optimize and personalize beverage and culinary enjoyment. Our first application is ready, came to market about a month ago. It's called the Vela Wine Oxygenator. It's actually handheld and uses pure disposable, pure oxygen, 99.5%. All the products on the market, you can either swirl, use Venturi, put it in a decanter. They can take 3 to 5 milligrams of dissolved oxygen, and they express the aromatics, and they can actually make it smooth. In 3 minutes, ours can do 15 milligrams of dissolved oxygen, and that means you've never tasted a young wine transformed to a wine that's really ready to drink. What does that mean? Expressive aromatics that usually dissipate with a decanter, full fruit flavor, which is usually hidden by the program, and smooth and silky. Our business model is a razor blade model, where the device is $300. The cartridges are $12.50, but because we're founded by the second largest medical grade gas company in the world, who invested $7.5 million to bring it to market, there's 2,300 PSI in this, compared to I think a 30 in a tire, and only about 230 that goes into typical capsules today. The end membrane on that device is really our secret sauce. It's a membrane that's patented and actually can create so much dissolved oxygen. That's where we get our efficiency. We are raising $10 million for Series A and possibly focusing on a convertible debt program this summer to take advantage with customer connections with Bloomingdale's and wine enthusiasts. Thanks, everybody.
Have you sold any or done any pre-sales on one of the crowdfunding platforms to bring it full circle?
No, I was actually, we had $7.5 million from a group called Lindy Group out of Munich, Germany. So they did development stage, and they pulled in a founding leadership team to pull it out of the lab. So we've been at it a year, and we actually brought it together. So it wasn't appropriate, but love the concept.
How are the margins on the cartridge, and how often do you have to refill a cartridge?
69% for both items, the device and this, at those price points. And because it's 2,300 PSI, there's 33 minutes of oxygen. We recommend 3 minutes for certain white wines that need some aging.
You can make it real old in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Does it get older as you do this?
So take these are typically red wines that most people decant, but be contrarian. If you take a white Burgundy and you actually decant it, it actually is still, it's luxurious.
Oh, you dog.
It's almost like it'd be the best date you've ever had.
Oh, jeez.
Are you ready to get into fish and wine in one evening? Not bad. Four? Okay. Well, then I apologize for folks who wanted to pitch. I'm getting the signal that we actually need to clear out of here. Our pumpkin or sherry is turned back into a pumpkin. So thank you for our judges. Can we have a round of applause for these guys? So why don't you guys just start off by going down the line and just say who you are, what your fund is, and what you look for.
Hi, my name is Zach Coelius. I'm a washed-up entrepreneur. I've been punched in the face for so many years. I'm enjoying that media. I'm an early-stage investor. I invest in software companies, generally enterprise-ish, but they range from autonomous cars, anti-drug technologies, data, marketplaces, you name it. Early stage. So look forward to early stage.
He invested in Cruise. Is that your biggest win?
So far.
So far? Cruise automation, that was huge.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt. I work with a firm called Greylock Partners. We're a venture capital firm here in the Bay Area. We invest at all stages, predominantly Series A, Series B, but kind of anywhere seed through growth. Investing out of our 15th fund, which is $1 billion fund. Also all types of technology, consumer, enterprise, communities.
I'm Billy Draper. I work on a fund called Draper Associates, early stage sort of generalist fund. It's a $190 million fund. We invest about $1 million in the companies valued between 5 and 10. And similar, across fintech, logistics, marketplaces, very opportunistic.
Awesome. Has anyone ever heard the name Draper in the Valley? Yeah. Okay. I think I went in and pitched your grandpa, I believe, one time, actually. Yeah.
Wonderful.
He was great. Awesome. So, fundraising is changing. It's an interesting time to be investors, I'm sure. Interesting time to be entrepreneurs. Since you guys have been investing, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen? Like, what's happening in your world in terms of how you source deals, in terms of, how you're processing deals? I mean, angels come on. Give a little flavor.
I think there's just so much more information out there. It makes our jobs in a lot of ways much easier, in a lot of ways much more difficult. And then on top of that, we're able to learn a lot about a company by a Google search, by Googling a founder, by reaching out to customers very easily. And then I guess in the last couple of years, crowdfunding has come along. And we're going to, I think, talk about that a little bit. And ICOs are now coming along, and that seems like it could be a real revolution in fundraising. Yeah, I would just say the amount of information available to us with relatively little work is probably the biggest thing that's changed in the last 5 years since at least I've been doing this.
Do you find yourself being more of a data-driven investor than how your grandfather may have done it, which was maybe more look in the eyes and kind of, judge the...
I think so. My grandpa always tells the story about how in the early days, in the sort of 60s in venture capital on the West Coast, they would drive around, and whenever a sign said anything about technology, they would knock on the door, and all the deals were 50-50. So they were really great economics for the venture capitalists. Since then, our margins have been squeezed down tremendously. But so yes, I would say we're more data-driven than that.
It's a good story. So I haven't been doing this very long on the investing side, but some of the things that have changed, just talking to my colleagues who have been doing this for decades, it feels like right now it's kind of a market of haves and have-nots. Still think the demand among investors for some companies is exceptional, and they raise very large amounts of money in those rounds end up being very competitive to invest in and priced very high. And then on the other hand are a long tail of folks that do struggle to raise. I think one of the other things is that in the consumer world, where I spend a lot of time, it feels like there are less breakout companies maybe than there were 5 or 6 years ago as mobile was proliferating as a platform. It was very much kind of a new distribution platform, new distribution channel for folks.
AngelList, major changes since I was raising money.
Yeah, well, let's talk about AngelList. So you have a syndicate on AngelList, and AngelList came out with that, what they call it, angel funds, right? So how does that change the game? Or maybe give a little overview, just for anyone who's not familiar, and then, does this democratize being a VC? What does it mean?
Yeah, so I started what was effectively one of the early AngelList syndicates. The way it works is relatively straightforward. I find companies I like, I get an allocation. It ranges anywhere from sort of 200 on the low end to maybe a couple $1 million on the high end. And then I have about 1,000 wealthy individuals who choose to write into those deals if they want to. So I'm like, hey, this is Branch Metrics. I love them. Here's why. This is the Series C. Andy Rubin is leading it. There's $60 million coming in from all these other investors. I have this allocation. Do you guys want it? And they basically opt into the deal. That becomes an SPV, a special purpose vehicle. So it's just one line in the cap table. Those funds get wired over to the company, and I get carry on that like I'm a venture capitalist. So
how much are you writing? Use a typical amount. How much is the check you're writing versus your backers pooling together?
So this is all public, so it's not only fair. I'm actually incredibly cash poor, so I put in $1,000 per deal. I have a special waiver from AngelList actually that show them my bank statements. On paper, there's a lot, but in cash, there's not so much. So I don't think much.
High leverage.
I hope to start a big system. I'm going to lose a lot.
sticking on angels. So what about this new angel fund?
Yeah.
It sounds like they've pooled money and they're kind of putting it into work for guys like you.
So one of the things that's always frustrating for AngelList syndicate leads like myself is there's only certain types of deals work for AngelList syndicates. Because there's $8,000 in fees for every deal you do, you have to put in at least a couple $100,000 for it to make sense, because that $8,000 comes right off the top. So if you only put in $100,000, you just lost 8% of your money on day one, which investors don't like very much. But there are a lot of opportunities where you be a hot company or a small company or a young company or whatever reason a company where you have only been able to invest, say, $25 to $50, maybe $100,000 into the round for whatever reason. Or maybe the syndicate wasn't the right model for investing. And so they started these things called AngelList funds, which is where they get AngelList investors. And AngelList has three types of investors. There are the sort of institutional investors. So one of those is called CSC. It's a big pool of Chinese money. Another one is called Maiden Lane, which comes from a venture firm called Accomplice. And then there's a bunch of those institutional investors who sit on top of AngelList and invest in the syndicate deals. The second class is AngelList funds. So AngelList creates a bunch of funds that they gather from local individuals. And then the third group is wealthy individuals from all over the world. So what they've done is they've created small funds from these three classes of capital. In my case, I think it's about $1.5 million. They put it into a fund, and then I have the ability to write 25 to 100K checks off of that into deals that wouldn't be suitable for an AngelList syndicate. So I've had opportunities over the last couple of years that were really exciting that I wanted to invest in and wasn't able to do it. But now those AngelList funds enable me to write those smaller, more angel-like checks.
Matt and Billy, how does what he just described here change your perspective being from traditional funds? Big, Greylock's been around forever, Draper's been around even longer than that, I don't think. So what does this mean for you guys?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, as I said at the beginning, we do predominantly Series A, Series B investments, and so I speak to a lot of folks like yourself who spend time working with very, very early stage startups and help them get their initial capital, and then kind of from our perspective, the more innovation, the better. And so if that can help entrepreneurs get over that initial gap, we're very supportive of it.
Yeah, and I'd say in all areas of finance, the first deal I ever did was in 2013. Was the seed round of Robinhood, and you see every area of finance becoming empowering the individual to take control of their own finances. You don't necessarily need to call someone on the phone to tell you what stocks you should buy. That's starting to happen in sort of venture capital. It's not only becoming democratized, but also there's so much information out there. It's starting to look, the hot take, in 5 or 10 years, venture capital is going to look very different. I think the idea of this sort of institution with its network, with its sort of, that's more of, going to become more of like a short-term arbitrage opportunity. Everyone's going to be able to leverage their own network to kind of build their own business and build their own investment portfolio. I don't know when that'll be, but it's looking a lot like the music industry in like 1997. Hot take. Hot take alert.
There's companies that have a product that the consumers or users want, and Kickstarter is a perfect example of that. If you've got enough people who want your product, you can raise money one way or another based on that. If that doesn't happen, if you're just simply raising on a concept, the problem is that the early days are gone. So when you used to be able to basically put up your concept and get funding, now there's so many concepts basically showing up across these platforms that just concept alone is not going to get you there. And what we're seeing, at least on AngelList, is very dramatically over the last couple of years been a significant move to social proof. So unless you're a company that is well known and well established, a founder that basically has made trillions of dollars for your investors in the past, or you have investors who are well known and established, unless you have that social proof on your startup, it can be very difficult and get lost in the crowd.
All right. So I pestered this guy incessantly until he finally said, "Okay, I'll come speak. Leave me alone."
Yeah, like you don't stop, so that's a good thing.
So maybe I think most people probably know who you are, but maybe give just a brief overview of what you've been up to the last few years.
Sure. So why I'm here and what I was up to, I started a company called AppDynamics back in 2008. No? Is this on?
Closer.
Okay. So my name is Jyoti Bansal. I started a company called AppDynamics back in 2008. This year we were about to go IPO early in the year. And a couple of days before we were about to go IPO, my company was acquired by Cisco for $3.7 billion. And and he wanted to hear my story here on fundraising and things like that. So that's what I'm here. AppDynamics was in application monitoring and management space, selling into large enterprises, like normally Fortune 1000 kind of companies. So very B2B business.
I don't know if you enunciated enough, but that was a billion, 3.7 billion, not 3.7 million. So just big, exciting exit. So you've been having a good year so far. It's
Yeah.
so far so good, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's obviously don't need to say that. Yeah.
Maybe let's almost kind of work backwards. I want to get into your funding and how you started off, but almost let's take a kind of a reverse chronology for a little bit. In a nutshell or two, what was the thought process behind selling and stepping into public? Was it just the Sarbanes-Oxley and regulatory? I mean, there's probably a lot involved.
Well, no, there is no real thought process as in going public versus selling the company. We were about to go public, and we would have gone public in 3 days if we didn't sell. It was just an offer we couldn't refuse. That was really it. And at some point, from a shareholder perspective, for employee perspective, you have to look at like if it's an offer that's really good for everyone, you have to consider it, right? So that's really the process behind. It's not that we accepted the first offer. We've said no to many offers in the past, and this one, we had one offer like 10 days before the IPO from Cisco. We said no. They did another offer which we said no, and they did a third offer which we couldn't say no. That was really the thought process.
Yeah, very interesting. Were you nervous about going public? Because that opens up a whole new level of scrutiny. Did that play into it at all, or was it just
not really? Not really. We have been readying for going public for a long time, so it's not that So we were like everything was set up, like the whole the planning for the wedding was all set up. It was just really at the last minute that we didn't do it, and it was kind of painful to not do it in the last minute because all our employees and all were like, what just happened? Like we had 20 employees already in New York to ring the bell with us, and so we had to kind of ask them to come back and things like that.
Very amazing. Do you ever just wake up in a cold sweat thinking it was all just a dream and you've got to go back into work?
It's an interesting question. Like AppDynamics was a good story, successful story, and but it's a long time. It's 9 years in the making. Like I started 9 years ago, so many times it feels like just people think it happens overnight, but startups don't happen overnight. It takes a long time, like 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 15 years even, to build a meaningful startup. I do run into founders sometimes who are like who feel like that it's probably a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year something like which you can do in a job, but if you want to build a startup, it's a long time. So it's hard. It doesn't feel like it was just a dream because it's like a long time.
So let's go back to the beginning, the early days. When you left where were you working before you left the start?
So I was working at another startup, a small startup about 100 employees, and it was acquired by a larger company, Computer Associates. The startup was called Wiley Technology. So I was working there, and then I had this idea that I wanted to work on the idea of AppDynamics and what we were doing at AppDynamics, and that's when one day I decided I got to do this, and let me quit my job and start this company. Right.
And the topic tonight is fundraising. Yeah. So how did you fund it in the beginning? Did you bootstrap it? Did you raise some angel money? What was the initial capital?
I did bootstrap it in the beginning. I would say the fundraising I thought would take longer, but it took me about. So I started doing fundraising. I started building the product, writing code, and doing some fundraising while I was in my previous job. That wasn't going very well, and I realized that I need to quit my job and do this full time. And so I quit my job and started doing this full time. And then it was like my day was, and it was just me. I was the sole founder, and so it was just one-person company really. So I would write code, build out my PowerPoint presentation, things like that, and then go to Sand Hill Road and pitch to the VCs all the time. So that was
just you,
just me.
It was PowerPoint. That's amazing.
And some code, but my code was too technical to show to anyone because it was a very technical product. But that it was just that, and it took about the whole process 3 months before quitting my job and maybe 3-4 months after quitting my job, the 6-7 month funding process, and I did bootstrap in that phase. Didn't raise any kind of external round.
So that was you went straight to the Series A, or there was an angel round?
No, I went straight to Series A.
Okay.
And I went straight to Series A for 2 reasons. One was the product that I was building was a very complex B2B product. It's designed for large enterprises, very technical, a lot of technological complexity in it. And it was hard to get the product out without hiring a team of at least, let's say, 7 to 8 engineers there. And it would have taken a year or so to do that. That was one thing. The second was the seed investor world back in 2008 wasn't as robust as what it is now. Like now, seed and angel is really, really robust. At that time for B2B, you had to go and try to convince the bigger VCs. So I went to Series A. If I have to do it again, I will probably not do straight to Series A. I would do a seed round first.
And how many rounds did you guys ultimately raise?
A lot. We raised close to about $250 million of funding over 6 different rounds.
Oh, okay. So you mentioned so there's a really good LinkedIn article, plug, that you wrote about picking your VCs. You guys should Google it and read it. Very interesting. But you wrote in that you had multiple VC offers. What was it? That's hard to get, right? That's not, most startups are scrambling to get one VC to put down a term sheet. You had multiple offers, and you had the luxury of picking which VC to work with. So what was it about your company or the process you ran that gave you kind of a competitive deal?
In my experience, what I have learned is if you get offer from one VC, there's a high chance that you can get offers from multiple VCs at that time. Because you are ready, if you're ready for one VC, you're ready for other VCs also. And all VCs are looking for about the same kind of things. So it's like, if I look at the very high level, they're looking for is, the VCs do want $1 billion outcome, right? That's how their business model works. They don't want to have at least they want to shoot for that outcome. Because if they invest in 10 companies and one become $1 billion and make a lot of money, 5 or 6 will not make any money, and few will make some return for them. So their business model is go big or go home. So that's what they're looking for. And they know like if they find all companies like that, they will make some of them will get there, right? So you have to convince them of. So to me, it's like it really comes down to 3 things. You have to convince them that this, if everything goes right, this could be $1 billion company. Then second thing you have to convince them is like, it's the traction in the market, traction of some kind, of some validation from potential customers, from existing customers, from someone who is validating your product, your thesis, your market, all of that. So that's why you will keep hearing traction of some kind, right? And the third is really like why you. So if they're convinced that it's a large market and there is traction, and how can you be the winner? So sometimes it'd be like you as the founders, or you as in your product, approach, or you as in your sales approach, marketing approach, something like what is the moat, or what's the thing that you have unique that will make you the winner of the 4 or 5 startups that will compete for that particular space. With every big space, multiple startups do compete. So to me, it's like that's the story. It's really those 3 things. And I struggled with it initially. I pitched about 20 VCs who said no to me for like 3-4 months, and then at some point the story kept getting better and better, right? So the story, these 3 things were starting to come together, and then I had like one offer, and all the PCs I pitched to, once they heard I have one offer, they suddenly started putting all of them started putting offers, and I had like 5 or 6 offers very quickly. But that's not very uncommon. I have seen that many times that it's if your startup is attractive to one VC because you are meeting those criteria that the VCs are looking for, then it starts becoming attractive to other VCs at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's like, what was your moat? What was your why you? And what was the thing that really hooked them?
I would say the moat why you was for me was a few things. Like I was solving a problem that was pretty technically complex, and I had prior experience and like 9 different patents in that particular technology area. So, I may not be maybe an expert in it, but at least I was perceived as an expert. So that was my moat in some way. Like, so people would think this guy has, 9 patents in this area and seems like an expert. So maybe that's why the potential of winning in this is more than other companies start getting started in this. So that was definitely a moat. And as a founder, you have to identify like what would sell as a moat and maybe sell it more. So for me, that was definitely part of it. The technology approach was a bit of a advantage. A lot of investors don't really get it that much, but still, that was an advantage. Some smart investors got it, and that helped to sell as a moat as well. There is no real thought process as in going public versus selling the company. We were about to go public, and we would have gone public in 3 days if we didn't sell. It was just an offer we couldn't refuse. That was really it. And at some point, from a shareholder perspective, for employee perspective, you have to look at like if it's an offer that's really good for everyone, you have to consider it, right? So that's really the process behind. It's not that we accepted the first offer. We have said no to many offers in the past, and this one, we had one offer like 10 days before the IPO from Cisco. We said no. They did another offer which we said no, and they did a third offer which we couldn't say no. That was really the thought process.
Yeah, very interesting. Were you nervous about going public? Because that opens up a whole new level of scrutiny. Did that play into it at all, or was it just
not really? Not really. We have been readying for going public for a long time, so it's not that So we were like everything was set up, like the whole the planning for the wedding was all set up. It was just really at the last minute that we didn't do it, and it was kind of painful to not do it in the last minute because all our employees and all were like, what just happened? Like we had 20 employees already in New York to ring the bell with us, and so we had to kind of ask them to come back and things like that.
Very amazing. Do you ever just wake up in a cold sweat thinking it was all just a dream and you've got to go back into work?
It's an interesting question. Like AppDynamics was a good story, successful story, and but it's a long time. It's 9 years in the making. Like I started 9 years ago, so many times it feels like just people think it happens overnight, but startups don't happen overnight. It takes a long time, like 5, 6 years, 10 years, 15 years even to build a meaningful startup. I do run into founders sometimes who are like who feel like that it's probably a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year something like which you can do in a job, but if you want to build a startup, it's a long time. So it's hard. It doesn't feel like it was just a dream because it's like a long time. It's really unfortunate and I would say sad and stupid that we make it hard for someone to start a company. It's like if you have someone talented here in the Bay Area already, in USA already, and making it hard, like you can do a job, but you can't quit your job and start a company and create more jobs. That doesn't make any sense. But unfortunately, that is how it is.
This is a talk I've given a few times. I've probably given this to about 40 different accelerators. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. But basically, this is our process that we've worked with for quite a few years on how to fundraise, breaking it into a very tactical step-by-step process. Just really quickly, I mentioned I run Foundersuite. It's a SaaS platform for startups to do your funnel management and investor updates. But before that, I spent 12 years working with about 120 companies, helping them raise money, like Kickstarter and some other early ones that you've heard of. About half of them we raised money for, about half were unsuccessful trying to raise money. So I kind of learned the hard way, what it takes to raise money. But here's how most people start off, and here's how to do it wrong. Hunter Walk is a VC here in San Francisco, and his statement here, "Will you intro me to investors?" is too broad to be acted upon, right? So a lot of founders start the process by just asking everyone they know if they can make some VC intros for them. Not only is that too broad, too ambiguous for the person you're asking to act upon, it's also putting in all that work of figuring out who you should be talking to on the shoulders of the other person. A much better approach to fundraising is to think of it like a sales process, right? If you've ever been in sales, it's pretty step by step. You build a list of leads, you qualify those leads, you get in touch with them, engage with them, and you're driving every lead to a close, either yes or no. And by the way, I can send these slides out. Kind of expanding on fundraising as a sales process or running fundraising as a process, we can think of it like a funnel, right? Top one, you're building a large list of potential investors. You're screening those investors by geography, stage, sector. You're filtering out many names from that list. You're finding the right person at every fund. If you're talking to seed funds or venture funds, you don't just go pitch a fund, you pitch a
partner at that fund, you find a champion within that venture fund to back you. So you find the right person, then you figure out how to reach them. And of course, it's all about the warm intro. There's really no other way to raise money than getting the warm intro. We're going to cover that in a little bit. And then you get into the outreach, into the meetings, into the business plan presentation, your pitch deck, getting into due diligence. Hopefully you'll start getting some term sheets and you're selling shares of your company, right? So fundraising is a very methodical step-by-step process. It doesn't have to be this chaotic, confusing, scary thing that many founders, think of it as. So how do we build a funnel? AngelList is your friend here. They've got 24,000 or so investors on there. You can search by different criteria. Brief product club, we've got an investor database we built in Foundersuite. It's free to search by market tag and by location. It's pretty simple but broad database. We've got about 50,000 names in there. Crunchbase is very useful. The way I like to use Crunchbase is I plug in companies like, for example, eShares, something that's similar to Foundersuite but not directly competitive, and then I go back and see who funded them at my stage, the seed stage, pick up some new names from that. And then lots of other places to find investors, right? I mean, this is the World Wide Web. I used to do this for startups back in when Jyoti was getting started. It was much, much harder 10 years ago to build your target list investors. It's easy now. PE Hub, Inside Venture, and Venture Pulse are all daily newsletters you can subscribe to for free. They report all the funding announcements, so you spend 5 minutes every day scanning through that, picking out some new names. Conferences are actually kind of interesting to find investor leads, like if you're in artificial intelligence or drones or VR, there's dozens of conferences that have sprung up, and almost all of them have at least a couple panels with investors. Investors like to get out there, make a name for themselves by speaking on panels. Core can be interesting. People spend a lot of time answering questions like who are the top 10 VR investors, right? And then these paid databases, PitchBook, Mattermark, CV Insights, really solid. These are great databases. They're expensive. So if you have access through a friend, maybe you know someone who works at a fund and that fund subscribes to it, I think PitchBook is like 50 grand a year, plus or minus. CV Insights is like 100K. So they're beyond the reach of most startups, but if you have some way, they're very useful. Basically, the concept is kind of tuning your radar into looking for investors and start to find them. Step number 2, we're just marching down our process here. You want to start crossing people off your list. We built a list of maybe 150, 200, now we want to take off 25, 30% of that list. Anyone who's invested in a competitor, don't even talk to them. There's no advantage for you, all the potential advantage for your competitor. When I was helping companies fundraise, several years ago, every now and then an investor we're pitching would send us competitive debt, right? You just don't want to bother with that. No dry powder. So if you're pitching venture funds and they haven't raised a new fund in the last 2 or 3 years, they're probably only doing follow-on deals on their existing companies. So they're not doing a lot of new deals, and those guys you might deprioritize. You spend a lot of time meeting with these guys, they don't really have any money to spend or invest. I would take them off the list. And the way to figure out if they've raised a new fund in the last couple of years is the PE Hub Inside Venture. No recent deals. This applies to angels in particular, right? If you go look on some angel that you've identified as potentially good for you, go put them in an angel list and you see all their deals are from 2014, 2015, you might take a pass on them or at least deprioritize them. Wrong sector, wrong stage, wrong geographic location. This should be obvious, but when you're a med tech company and you see someone does fintech, it doesn't make sense to go pitch them. If you're raising a seed round and they call themselves growth capital, that's later stage. There's no sense in pitching them. And of course, if you're a San Francisco firm and you find someone who invests in Seattle area companies, there's no use in pitching them. Bad reputation, this is a little bit harder to figure out. There are some kind of bad actors out there in the investment world. There's a site called thefunded.com that has some ratings and reviews. A little bit outdated, but pretty useful. Key point is you want to be taking about 25 to 30% off that list. It'll make your fundraising go much smoother when we really get into the heat of it. All right, so now we need to figure out how to reach all these guys and gals that are remaining on our target list. LinkedIn is your main tool here. There's no magic to this. You plug in that investor into LinkedIn, you see if you have any mutual connections. If you have more than one mutual connection, that's great. In that case, there becomes a hierarchy of intro sources. The best person, if you have more than one mutual connection, the best person to ask for the intro is someone who's made your target money in the past. This could be a founder, someone else that they invested in and made money. Those guys will take those intros all day long, instantly. The little story I always tell is my kid goes to preschool with some other kids. One of the fellow dads had a big exit, sold his company to Yahoo for $640 million. Got him some beers, asked him if he would do some intros. Everyone who he introduced me to responded in like milliseconds, right? Because he has made people money. Very powerful intro source. Kind of second tier are co-investors, right? Who's co-invested with Christoph? Christoph's our target in this scenario. Fellow investors, right? Third tier are people Christoph is invested in currently, right? Current portfolio company founders. And then fourth tier, I would say, are kind of the professional service providers, bless their heart, the guys and gals who work at your accounting firm, your law firm, who are like the biz dev role. They kind of know all the investors in the Silicon Valley, but they make a ton of intros, so it's not a super strong intro. And then, way down the list are the people that Christoph just met at a conference somewhere for 5 minutes and connected on LinkedIn. Those aren't very strong. You can't always identify if that's a fit. If you have no introductions or no connections in common, as I imagine many people who are maybe outside Silicon Valley might have, companies, pick out a couple founders that look friendly and reach out to them in an informational way, right? What's Christoph been like to work with? Just like Jyoti was talking about, he was doing due diligence checks on some of the investors. You can do that same kind of thing. You want to ask these founders what it's like to work with these investors, and then it's okay to ask for the intro if you develop a little dialogue. Founders are usually pretty good about helping other founders. In fact, there's a group in the room, Kevin somewhere runs a network called Founders Network. Kevin, just raise your hand. It's like, isn't your motto founders helping founders? Founders Network is a founders group like that. Very last on the least is the cold email. It really is not effective. Don't do it. It'll make you look bad. It makes you look lazy. It makes you look like you can't network your way into an intro. And it's ineffective. These guys and gals are getting 100 warm intros a day. Your cold email is going to fall, for the most part, on deaf ears.
We build a new type of wearable technology that's a computing platform that can power everything from augmented reality, live stream video and data aggregation. And we've already raised $1.6 million and commercialized the technology. As a world first, I do have a prototype of what that is inside this bag, if anyone wants to see. We are also negotiating right now, and the reason we're in the States is we're negotiating with the NRL for live stream broadcast onto ESPN and Fox Sports for our technology. And we've also signed up the largest sports manufacturer in Asia as a financial partner in this round.
Let's say, I'll try to think of how do I do this short amount. Let's say there is a token out there that is a predictions market. And there's one called Augur and there's one called Gnosis. I think both of them are different prediction markets. And let's say you're an engineer that wants to build an options trading platform on the blockchain or a sports betting website on the blockchain. You see that, oh cool, they're releasing the availability of this new technology. I want to participate in that ICO. I want to buy some tokens because I know what I'm going to build on top of that platform is going to add a lot of value to that platform and add a lot of value to those tokens, and I'm going to be owning those tokens. So it creates this really virtuous cycle. Some people see it as a virtuous cycle that you could theoretically you could be you raise money on a certain kind of token, you pay your employees with that token, and then they buy their things with that token. That's sort of the purest crypto dream. But then some people look at it as a sort of upside down IPO, where instead of a company getting built and built and built, and then sort of proving itself for years and years and getting to profitability, and then going IPO, this is more like the Kickstarter model. Like, hey, let's all speculate. We're going to invest in the ICO. very quickly with very little friction, and then sort of hope it all works out. And right now it feels very speculative, but we need people to start building cool things on the various technologies that are being developed.
How many people know what an ICO is? Okay, a handful. Pretty good.
That's great.
Yeah. Anyone else to add on to that?
That's a good summary.
Is there, if someone wanted to pursue that model or explore that further device for navigating it, how would you even start to explore it?
That's back to you.
Okay. Yeah, it's become a very real funding model to the point where there have been companies that we've seen 6 months ago pitching us their business that are now saying, oh wait, we don't need venture capital, we're going to raise on a token offering. So they are now going out, and there are companies, there was one that was able to raise $25 million in 19 minutes. So think about how long that would take you on Sand Hill Road. I think longer than 19 minutes. And then there was one, I think that was like 20-something seconds, the basic attention token, more recently. So it's, right now it is a lot of speculation. There are a lot of people who invested early in Bitcoin or invested early in Ethereum and are multimillionaires in crypto, and they want to sort of pay it forward and sort of invest in the next thing. And so there's a little bit of that happening, but ideally, we're going to have to start evaluating these like companies like we would evaluate any other startup. A company that doesn't have a product raising $25 million in 19 minutes seems like there might be something wrong with that. So we'll see how it all plays out. The ones that will be the most successful are the ones that build a product. Do it just like a startup. You bootstrap it as far as you possibly can. You say, I'm going to raise X amount in my coin offering. You don't need to raise $50 million. You don't need to raise $25 million, and you just sort of govern yourself.